Nothing ruins a family faster than a badly written will and a good lawyer. 1. The man who left his millions to his cat. When New York hotel heiress Leona Helmsley died in 2007, she didn't just leave behind skyscrapers and lawsuits. She left her $12 million fortune to her Maltese dog. Trouble. Yes, trouble. Her 2 grandchildren? Cut out completely. The dog instantly became richer than 99% of America, complete with round-the-clock security, a chef, and an investment portfolio. The grandchildren sued, arguing, quite reasonably, that maybe the dog didn't need a trust fund the size of a tech startup. The court agreed, slashing Trouble's inheritance to a modest $2 million. Still, that's enough to make her the only creature in history who could literally roll in money and call it a belly rub. 2. The farmer who gave his fortune to the wrong woman. In 1948, a wealthy Irish farmer named William McCarthy decided to make one last romantic gesture. He left his entire estate, thousands of acres and his mansion, to his beloved Kathleen. Small problem, there were 2 Kathleens in his life, his longtime housekeeper and his secret mistress. The will didn't specify which one. What followed was a courtroom brawl so dramatic it made local headlines for years. Both women showed up to court claiming to be the rightful Kathleen. The mistress had love letters. The housekeeper had decades of service. In the end, the judge decided the will was too affectionate for an employer-employee relationship, meaning the mistress won. The housekeeper got nothing but the satisfaction of haunting that estate forever in spirit. 3. The father who made his kids. Earned their inheritance by competing Canadian lawyer Charles Vance Miller was a professional prankster, even in death. When he died in 1926, his will turned his estate into the world's strangest reality show. He promised his fortune to the Toronto woman who gave birth to the most children in the 10 years following his death. It became known as the Great Stork Derby. For a decade, families treated childbirth like the stock market, except the dividends cried at night. In 1936, 4 women tied with 9 babies each and split the fortune. The government tried to stop the madness, but the court upheld the will. Miller had legally turned his final act into a maternity Olympics, proving that even from the grave, a lawyer's true joy is creating chaos through paperwork. 4. The woman who left her house to her ghosts. In 1932, an eccentric widow named Sarah Winchester, yes, of the Winchester rifle fortune, left behind one of the strangest wills ever written. Instead of dividing her mansion among relatives or charities, she declared that the spirits who guided her construction should remain undisturbed. Her house, already famous for having staircases that lead to nowhere and doors that open into walls, was to stay exactly as she left it, eternally incomplete. The legal executor was baffled. You can't exactly subpoena ghosts or transfer ownership to entities unknown. The property ended up in legal limbo for years, while curious lawyers tried to determine if a haunting could be a legal beneficiary. It couldn't. But that didn't stop the legend. To this day, visitors say Sarah's will succeeded. The ghosts still live there rent-free, while the living pay $49.99 per tour. Honestly, that's one of the best real estate deals in history. 5. The millionaire who made his family wait 21 years to get paid. Charles Miller may have invented weird wills, but Wellington Burt perfected the art of slow revenge. The Michigan lumber baron died in 1919, furious at his ungrateful family. His will stated that no one would receive a penny until 21 years after the death of his last surviving grandchild, who was alive at the time of his death. Translation: they'd have to wait a century. Burt's money sat in a bank for 92 years, while his descendants lived normal lives, working real jobs, probably complaining about bills. When the last grandchild finally passed away in 1989, the countdown began. In 2011, yes, 2011, 12 bewildered heirs split $110 million. Imagine getting a check from a man who died before sliced bread was invented. It's the financial equivalent of being trolled from the afterlife. 6. The father who left his kids a puzzle for millions. When English antiques dealer Gerald Larkin died in 1977, his will wasn't a document. It was a riddle, literally. Instead of naming beneficiaries, he wrote a 6-page poem filled with cryptic references to hidden rooms and buried keys. His children spent years treating the family mansion like a treasure map, tearing through walls and floorboards. At one point, a hired psychic joined the search and claimed the fortune rests beneath the gaze of the angel. It turned out to be true. A safe hidden behind a marble statue contained bearer bonds worth over £1 million. Unfortunately, the safe also contained another riddle directing them to a second secret vault, which, as of today, has never been found. Family reunions, I assume, are less about love and more about metal detectors. 7. The man who left everything to his favorite TV character. In 2004, an Ohio bachelor named Donald Mims made legal history and local headlines when his will named Bugs Bunny as the sole heir to his estate. He genuinely believed Warner Brothers could use the inheritance to buy more carrots. His lawyer tried to explain that cartoon rabbits can't hold bank accounts, but Mims insisted, leaving behind $150,000 and a very confused legal team. After his death, the money technically defaulted to Warner Brothers, who declined to accept it, fearing bad press. Eventually, the funds were redirected to a children's charity, which officially thanked Bugs Bunny for his generosity. Somewhere, Mims probably laughed himself silly from the afterlife, knowing he'd made both the law and Looney Tunes share the same courtroom. 8. The woman who made her funeral a family competition. In 1988, British widow Millicent Thompson turned her last wishes into a full-contact sport. Her will stated that whoever planned her funeral best, including flowers, music, and emotional sincerity, would inherit her $120,000 estate. It was like The Bachelor, but for grieving relatives. Her children immediately formed alliances, sabotaged each other's floral arrangements, and even hired professional mourners to make their ceremonies look more heartfelt. Local tabloids dubbed it the Funeral Games. When the dust and the confetti settled, the judge ruled that her youngest daughter had displayed genuine affection and tasteful restraint, awarding her the money. Ironically, Millicent got exactly what she wanted: one last dramatic family gathering she could enjoy from beyond the grave. 9. The man who left his inheritance to the most boring town in England. Percival Crump was a retired postmaster who had one lifelong passion: complaining about how dull his hometown was. In his will, he declared that his entire $400,000 estate would go to whichever British town could prove it was the most boring. Cue chaos. Villages across the country flooded the courts with applications, boasting of no nightlife, no young people, and nothing to do. One town proudly submitted that their biggest annual event was the council repainting the roundabout. After months of legal debate and sociological humiliation, the prize went to a town in Lincolnshire, where the local newspaper headline once read, "Mild interest in new park bench." The townsfolk used the money to build a museum of boredom, featuring exhibits like drying paint through the ages. It's now a genuine tourist attraction, proving that being dull can pay, eventually. 10. The dentist who left his teeth to his students. In 1974, Dr. Henry Penbrook, a dental professor with a dark sense of humor, left his most prized possessions, his own extracted teeth, to the university's dental museum. But he didn't stop there. His will required that his students polish, mount, and display them in chronological order as a lesson in lifelong oral hygiene. The bizarre exhibit became infamous on campus. Some students refused to participate, arguing it was macabre. Others treated it like a sacred ritual. One even nicknamed it the Tooth Fairy's Graveyard. The university reluctantly complied because the donation came with $2 million in endowment money, on the condition that the teeth never leave public display. To this day, Dr. Penbrook's pearly whites smile eternally in a glass case, silently reminding everyone that dental guilt lasts forever, even post-mortem. 11. The woman who forced her cat to pick the heirs. Australian millionaire Margaret Thompson trusted no human, not even her family. When she died in 2011, her will stated that her vast estate should be divided according to the preferences of her cat, Mr. Whiskers. The lawyers were baffled, but legally obligated to comply. A local vet was hired to supervise the feline arbitration. Each heir's name was written on identical bowls of food. Whichever ones Mr. Whiskers approached determined their inheritance. After a tense 20 minutes, the cat chose 2 bowls, ignored the rest, and took a nap on the contract. Those 2 relatives split $3.5 million, while the others got absolutely nothing, except the humiliation of being legally outsmarted by a house cat. To add insult to injury, the judge ruled that Mr. Whiskers' decisions appeared deliberate and final. Honestly, that cat should have gotten its own Netflix documentary. 12. The millionaire who left his fortune to himself. and the future lawyer and inventor Thomas Howell truly believed cryogenics would make him immortal. So when he died in 1989, he left all $4.5 million of his wealth to myself upon reanimation. His will instructed the executor to hold the funds in trust until such a time as Thomas Howell is restored to full human consciousness. His relatives protested, calling it a savings account for a zombie. But the court ruled that since the condition wasn't technically impossible, the trust had to stay open. To this day, the estate continues to accrue interest, with the balance now approaching $7 million, waiting for its long-deceased owner to clock back in. It's like the world's longest unpaid vacation, except the employee's been on ice for 30 years. If he ever wakes up, he's going to have a great retirement plan. And the most awkward tax meeting in history. 13. The priest who left his parish a pub. When Irish priest Father Seamus Donnelly passed away in 1992, his congregation expected the usual bequest, maybe a donation for church repairs. Instead, his will revealed he'd secretly bought a struggling pub down the road and left it to the parish. His reasoning? It's where half my congregation already spends Sundays. The town's bishop was horrified, but legally the pub belonged to the church. For months, priests served pints under a sign that read Holy Spirits. Eventually, the Vatican intervened and allowed it to remain open as a community outreach center, one that just happened to sell Guinness. The pub still operates today, proudly advertising itself as the only bar with confession on tap. Father Donnelly's will turned out to be his final sermon, a masterclass in knowing your audience. 14. The businessman who made his enemies share a meal. Forever. In 1956, Chicago entrepreneur Raymond Dugan had a knack for holding grudges. His will ensured he'd hold on to them long after death. He required that his 6 most hated business rivals attend a joint dinner every year on the anniversary of his passing, or forfeit their company shares in his estate. Every one of them showed up the first year, furious, silent, and legally trapped over steak and wine. The awkward tradition continued for decades, with their children eventually inheriting both the stocks and the obligation. By 2010, the Hate Dinner, as it became known, was a local legend. Journalists begged for invites, and the restaurant sold out tables just to watch. Dugan's ghost may not haunt them physically, but nothing says revenge like forcing your enemies to toast your memory annually, with impeccable table manners. 15. The woman who left her husband a haunted house on purpose. When Evelyn Carter died in 1978, her will contained one delightfully cruel clause. Her husband, Harold, would inherit her family estate only if he lived in it for 30 consecutive nights. Simple, except the mansion was allegedly haunted. Harold, a staunch skeptic, accepted immediately. But by the 3rd night, he reported unexplained footsteps, cold drafts, and a ghost that smelled like Chanel No. 5. Neighbors claimed they saw lights flickering and windows slamming on their own. After 17 days, Harold packed up, forfeiting the house and the $2 million that came with it. The mansion was later sold to a paranormal research team that confirmed it was, indeed, deeply unsettling. Whether it was ghosts or Evelyn's final act of petty genius, we'll never know. But one thing's certain, love may fade, but revenge has great real estate value. 16. The banker who left his money to whoever said good morning. First, when British banker Archibald Webb passed away in 1942, his will revealed a clause that turned inheritance into a literal race. It stated that his $500,000 fortune would go to whichever of his 3 sons said good morning to the family butler first on the day after his funeral. The sons, lifelong rivals, spent the night scheming ways to outsmart each other. One hid the other's alarm clock, another bribed the butler to accidentally sleep in. When dawn broke, chaos erupted. They all charged into the hallway at once, shouting, "Good morning!" like a choir of maniacs. The butler, overwhelmed, fainted. The courts eventually ruled in favor of the middle son, who technically yelled the words first, while tripping over a rug. The family hasn't spoken since, but the butler retired comfortably, still traumatized by what he later called the loudest morning in British history. Archibald's final lesson? Always say good morning. You never know when it might be worth £500,000. 17. The widow who left her fortune to her mannequin collection. In 1969, New York socialite Dolores Kent shocked everyone by leaving her entire estate, mansion, jewelry, and a trust fund worth $3.2 million to her 47 mannequins. Each one had a name, a wardrobe, and a distinct personality noted in her will. Dolores's estranged family was furious, arguing the mannequins were property, not people. The court reluctantly appointed a lawyer as the mannequin's guardian, forcing him to appear in probate hearings surrounded by silent, lifeless fashion models. Eventually, the judge ruled the mannequins couldn't legally inherit, but allowed the mansion to be turned into an art installation to honor Dolores's intent. The estate became a museum for eccentric collections, and her mannequins still stand there today, perfectly dressed, perfectly still, and legally recognized as the most fashionable beneficiaries in American history. Somewhere, Dolores is smiling, mostly because no one else in her family ever looked that good in couture. 18. The miner who hid his gold, and a map in his will. In 1934, Colorado prospector Hank "Dusty" Wilkes passed away, leaving behind a handwritten will and one maddening line: "To whoever finds my treasure, you'll know where to dig." No one had any idea what that meant until someone noticed faint etchings on the back of the document, coordinates and symbols forming a crude treasure map. For decades, fortune hunters scoured the Rockies searching for the mythical Wilkes gold. Some claimed to find tunnels, others found only rattlesnakes and bankruptcy. The legend became local folklore until, in 1989, a group of hikers uncovered a rusted strongbox near the marked coordinates containing several gold coins and Wilkes's old pickaxe. The coins weren't worth millions, but they proved one thing: Dusty's sense of drama was pure gold. His great-grandson later said he didn't want to share the treasure, he wanted to share the chaos. Mission accomplished, Grandpa. 19. The woman who forced her kids to perform at her funeral, opera singer Vivienne Dumont, was known for her flair, both in life and, unfortunately, for her family, in death. Her will stated that her 3 children could inherit her estate only if they performed at her funeral. One must sing, one play piano, and the third deliver a dramatic monologue worthy of Broadway. The children thought she was joking. She wasn't. On the day, a cathedral packed with mourners watched the world's most awkward family recital. The eldest cracked halfway through an aria, the pianist missed every third note, and the speech devolved into sobbing. Still, the court ruled they'd fulfilled their mother's wishes. Each received their share of the fortune, though they all later admitted they'd have rather sung at a karaoke bar than before 200 people and Mom's ghost. Vivienne got her encore. Her kids got stage fright that probably lasted forever. 20. The man who left his fortune to whoever could prove he was reincarnated. In 1920, eccentric Boston millionaire Jonathan Peabody left $1 million to myself upon proof of reincarnation. To claim it, a person had to demonstrate knowledge of specific memories from my youth known only to me. His lawyer kept a sealed envelope containing those details, ready to test any claimant. Over the next 50 years, more than 30 people appeared. Monks, mediums, and one man claiming to be Peabody reborn into a plumber's body. None passed the test. The funniest case came in 1954, when a woman correctly named Peabody's childhood dog but failed to identify his favorite cigar. Her defense? I was too young to smoke back then. The money eventually went to charity, but the lawyer admitted the contest was the most entertaining job security he'd ever had. Reincarnation or not, Peabody made sure his afterlife came with an audience. 21. The husband who left his wife. A lifetime of riddles engineer Walter Dempsey didn't believe in simple wills. When he died in 1982, his wife Eleanor received a brief letter. "Everything I own is yours, but to claim it, you must solve my puzzles." Attached were 12 envelopes, each containing cryptic math riddles and clues to hidden safes across their home. At first, Eleanor thought it was a cruel prank, but inside the first safe, she found a note that read, "Good start. Don't give up now." Over 3 years, she uncovered all 12 safes, each with a little treasure and another hint. The final one contained the deed to their house and a message. "See? You never needed me to solve everything." Eleanor later called it the world's nerdiest love letter. Lawyers called it the most over-engineered will in history. Either way, it was proof that even from the grave, engineers never stop overcomplicating things. 22. The grandma who left her fortune to whoever could bake her pie. Perfectly, when 87-year-old baker Edna Lou Foster passed away in 1995, her will shocked her family. Instead of splitting her $600,000 estate evenly, she wrote that it would go to whoever can recreate my apple pie exactly. For decades, Her pie recipe was the family's crown jewel, and Edna, a perfectionist, had taken the secret to her grave. A lawyer and 3 judges supervised the Great Pie trial in her kitchen, with family members competing like contestants on the Great British Bake Off, except with more crying and accusations of sabotage. One granddaughter nailed the flavor, thanks to a hidden note in the spice jar that read, "Don't forget the lemon zest, you fool." She inherited everything. The others went home empty-handed, except for sugar hangovers and lifelong resentment. Edna's legacy wasn't just her recipe, it was ensuring her family fought over dessert forever. 23. The man who left his money to the person who could stay awake the longest. In 1927, eccentric inventor Albert Winslow left his $250,000 fortune to the individual who can remain awake and conscious for the longest continuous period. His reasoning? Sleep is for the unimaginative. The contest drew dozens of insomniacs, students, and opportunists. Doctors supervised, newspapers tracked every hour, and chaos quickly followed. After 5 days, contestants began hallucinating. By day 9, one participant tried to sue a chair for whispering insults. The winner lasted 11 days before collapsing and being rushed to the hospital. He survived. Barely. The court immediately outlawed similar contests after declaring the stunt a hazard to both body and sanity. The prize money? It went to medical research on sleep deprivation, where scientists now use Winslow's legacy as a cautionary tale. The man wanted immortality through sleeplessness, and ironically achieved it as the world's most exhausting philanthropist. 24. The billionaire who left everything to random people in a phone book. In 1988, eccentric Canadian billionaire Frederick Davies had no family, no heirs, and apparently no patience for estate planning. His will instructed that his $5 million fortune be divided equally among 10 random people selected from the Toronto phone book. A stunned law firm literally opened the directory, flipped a few pages, and pointed. The chosen 10 ranged from a janitor to a librarian to a taxi driver who thought it was a prank call. Reporters dubbed them the Lucky 10. When asked why he'd done it, Davies had written, "The world's richest man could be one phone call away from anyone. Let's prove it." It became a media sensation, with imitators trying to inherit by chance. It's still considered one of the most chaotically wholesome acts of generosity in legal history. And somewhere, a lawyer still tells interns, yes, you really can inherit money by answering your landline. 25. The woman who left her wealth to her future self, in another life. Madame Clarice Beaumont, a 19th century French mystic, left her estate to myself upon reincarnation when I return as a red-haired girl born on a Sunday. The will included instructions for lawyers to test all red-haired female children born in her hometown on Sundays for spiritual recognition. Over the next century, not 1 but 7 claimants emerged, each claiming to feel connected to Madame Beaumont's soul. Courts grew tired of metaphysics and finally gave the money to charity. But here's the eerie twist. In 1973, a red-haired girl born on a Sunday in Beaumont-sur-Mer reportedly began speaking fluent 1800s French at age 5 and insisted she wanted her jewels back. Her parents laughed it off, but locals still call her La Reine Retournée, the returned queen. Maybe Madame Beaumont finally got her wish, or maybe she just had excellent timing and creepier taste in wills than most ghosts. 26. The actor who left his friends a script they had to perform. Hollywood legend Rex Halford was famous for his dramatic flair. When he died in 1976, his will contained not money, but a 60-page script titled The Final Curtain. It required his closest friends to perform it, on stage at his funeral, to access their inheritance. The roles were based on themselves, but heavily exaggerated. One friend played the jealous drunk, another, the backstabbing agent. It was less of a eulogy and more of a roast. Audiences loved it. Critics called it morbidly brilliant. The catch? Anyone who refused to perform forfeited their share. Every one of them took the stage, humiliated, teary, and rich by the curtain call. Rex got what every actor dreams of, a sold-out final performance, while his friends learned that in Hollywood, the show must go on, even if it's directed by a corpse. 27. The woman who left her husband a final joke and a lifetime of noise. In 2001, prank-loving widow Irene Whitman left her husband Harold the house, the car, and a small surprise in the attic. At first, everything seemed normal, until Harold heard a faint jingle in the ceiling. Inside, he found a small speaker system connected to a timer that played It's a Small World every night at 3 a.m. The lawyer later confirmed it was part of the will. Harold could stop the music only by donating $10,000 annually to the local animal shelter, Irene's favorite cause. He paid for 1 year before hiring electricians to tear the system out, only to discover a second speaker hidden in the walls. It took him 3 years to silence the music completely. By then, the shelter was thriving, and Irene had become a posthumous hero. Revenge, charity, and Disney. Truly, a triple masterpiece of matrimonial chaos. And there you have it. 27 testaments to the fact that death doesn't stop people from being dramatic, petty, or hilarious. Some used their wills to teach lessons, others to get revenge, and a few just wanted one last laugh from the grave. So, which of these legal lunatics earned your vote for most entertaining exit? Drop your pick below. And remember, if you're planning your own will, maybe keep the cat out of it.